I have some news for you. If you're visiting Banff in March, you're not getting spring. You're getting winter with longer daylight, a deep snowpack, and some of the most fun cold weather adventures of the season. March is the month where you can ski, walk through frozen canyons, and still end your day with cozy restaurants and mountain views. In this episode, I'm walking you through what March really looks like in Banff, what's worth planning around, and what can be hit or miss, and how to feel confident about your itinerary even if winter driving makes you nervous. Welcome back to the Banff Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Celine Brewer, a local Canmore resident living the mountain life all year long. As co founder of Banff Travel Planning and Travel Banff Canada, and a fellow traveler who spent years exploring the world with my husband and our two kids, I know what it takes to plan a trip that's smooth, stress free, and full of wow moments. And I love that I get to do this for you day in and day out. Now, before we jump in, if you're planning a Banff trip and you want a local set of eyes on your itinerary, I offer both 30-minute and 1-hour Banff travel consultations where we build a realistic plan around your exact dates, your interests, and desired activity level. If you're the person who's been reading 10 different blog posts and still feels unsure, this is exactly what my consultations are for. I'll mention them again later and I'll link everything in the show notes. All right, let's talk about Banff in March. I know. So many of us are deep into planning for the summer, but I don't want to forget about you that are still excited about coming in different seasons. Now, I need to start with what March looks like and setting those expectations because it'll save you some disappointment if you were expecting spring. March in Banff is still winter. The scenery is snowy, the lakes are frozen, and trails are packed down and icy. The good news is March is a great month for winter experiences. You get longer daylight than January and February. The snowpack is typically deep, which is why March is considered one of the best months for winter sports in the Rockies. In town, you might catch a mild afternoon here or there, then wake up the next morning and it's snowing sideways. That's March. Pack for winter, plan like it's winter, and you'll have an incredible trip. As for temperatures that you can expect, average March highs in Banff are around 4 degrees Celsius and lows around -8 degrees Celsius, but it can swing outside of that pretty easily. Those are just averages. You can have a sunny day that feels comfortable being outside all day, and you can also get a classic winter storm that changes your plans. One of the best parts of March, as I mentioned, is the daylight. By the end of the month, you're close to 12 hours of daylight compared to those short, deep winter days. And that matters because it gives you more time to do a morning activity and still fit in a second activity like a scenic drive or an easy winter walk. Just a quick note, don't forget that clocks do change in March for daylight savings time. So sunrise and sunset will shift. If you're planning early starts, double check what time it's actually getting light. Now, a few more planning realities in March. A spring break can make it feel a little busier. March typically feels quieter than peak season for sure, but it can spike during spring break time. Ski hills get busy, accommodation prices can go up, and restaurants can feel more booked up. So if you have flexible dates, that's something to keep in mind. Number 2 is the ice is not automatically safe. People see a frozen lake and assume they can skate on it. In March, we do have warming and cooling cycles, and it can make the ice conditions inconsistent. If you are skating, either do it where it's maintained and monitored, like at Lake Louise, or know how to check the ice thickness and whether or not it's safe on your own. This is really important. Third, you probably know this already, but Moraine Lake is not a March destination. Every winter, people ask about Moraine Lake. Moraine Lake Road is snow covered through the winter and it's not open to vehicles. The road is tracked for cross-country skiing, but it doesn't even go all the way to the lake because it crosses through dangerous avalanche terrain. And then the fourth point that's important for planning is winter driving. Now, this is a big one, especially for anyone who just doesn't enjoy driving in snow or you're just not familiar with it. Here's what I want you to know. The drive from Calgary to Banff is a major highway, well-maintained, and generally pretty straightforward. But the variable part is the weather. Conditions can change quickly. A storm can turn that easy drive into a stressful one. So if you're nervous, you do have options. You can take an airport shuttle right from the Calgary airport to Banff. If you base yourself in Banff, you can use local transit or tours for day trips. Your trip doesn't have to depend on you being confident driving in a snowstorm. Now, if you are driving, just know that you do require winter tires or tires with that M plus S, so mud plus snow symbol, to drive the Icefields Parkway, or to go into British Columbia. You should also be checking road conditions and weather forecasts before heading out on any long drives, and be well aware of the areas that don't have cell service, like the Icefields Parkway or even Highway 93S into Kootenay National Park, and even as you go into Yoho National Park. Now, what is there to do in Banff in March? Here are some great options for things to do in March. You can build a mix of sightseeing and easy winter activities into each day. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of options that you can piece together. One might be a Lake Louise day. Lake Louise is one of the best March days. The lake is frozen, the scenery is still unreal, and it's very accessible. You can walk the Lakeshore Trail for those postcard views. You can do a short but steep hike up to the Fairview Lookout. Now, don't forget some type of traction device for your boots. Skating on Lake Louise when the conditions allow, or, simply enjoying the ice and snow scene. Snowshoeing or cross-country skiing is also a great option in Lake Louise area. Next, obvious one, skiing or snowboarding. March is prime time for skiing and snowboarding. If you want that big mountain day, this is the month. It's especially nice with that longer day. And even if you're not a skier, maybe you've always wanted to learn, you can book a lesson at any of the ski hills. Of course, there's always winter hiking. Winter hiking in Banff can be amazing in March, but the key is picking trails that are appropriate for winter and doing your research to avoid any avalanche terrain. Of course, that detail that makes a huge difference on your hike is traction devices. Micro spikes are the difference between a fun hike or feeling like you're walking on a skating rink the whole time. Some really great hiking options in March are the easy hike at Johnson Lake, Tunnel Mountain in the town of Banff, of course, Johnston Canyon, Marble Canyon, or something even longer like hiking up Sulphur Mountain. Now, you heard me mention Johnston Canyon, so if you want something that feels completely unique to winter, this is it. Johnston Canyon is at its most beautiful in winter. You'll see frozen falls that turn into those bright blue ice formations. Those frozen waterfalls really are so stunning and worth seeing. Now, it does still get busy, so make sure you plan your time around that. I'd never recommend going midday, but earlier or later in the day is a good option. Of course, we have to mention dog sledding, a true winter experience here, and there are operators based both in Canmore and Lake Louise. Now, the only caveat to that is the snow conditions. So as the month warms up towards the end of March, these experiences that are dependent on snow do become less reliable. So just know that this might not be a possibility for your trip, depending on when you come in March. An easy one is a scenic drive. Scenic drives in March can be stunning. You have those snow-covered peaks and all the viewpoints. Again, always checking road conditions before you go. Alberta 511 is a good place for that. And if you're uncomfortable driving in winter conditions, you can always consider doing a tour instead of driving yourself. The Banff Gondola is perfect any time of year, including March. Now, expect it to be even colder at the top, but it's still going to be well worth it for the views. Snow tubing is so fun and still a great option in March. Now, you can do this at either the Lake Louise Ski Resort or Mount Norquay Ski Resort. And there are other more adventurous activities in March. They can be snowmobiling, but you need to drive further to Panorama or Golden for that. You can go on a guided snowshoe tour at the Sunshine Ski Resort. If you love frozen waterfalls, two other fantastic options are Grotto Canyon or Troll Falls, both in Kananaskis. So don't think just because you come in March, there aren't going to be a ton of really fun activities for you. I'll include my full guide to visiting Banff in March in the show notes so you can go through and find exactly what fits for your trip. So you'll hear me mention this a lot, but it is real. A flexible itinerary makes winter travel feel less stressful. Now, it is entirely possible that you'll come and wonder what I was talking about. The roads may be completely bare and dry, but you just never know. So I always like to set those expectations because things can change quickly. Now, one thing you didn't hear me mention in that list of things to do was the hot springs. Of course, the hot springs are an ideal activity this time of year, but I do need to let you know that the Banff Upper Hot Springs have been closed for maintenance and upgrades. Now, they're expected to reopen sometime in early 2026, but I haven't seen any announcements for that yet. Of course, you can go to Radium Hot Springs. That's another option if you want to take that day trip on Highway 93 South to Radium. Alternatively, you can book a hotel in Banff with a great rooftop hot tub, or even go to one of the Nordic spas in Canmore or Kananaskis. So, what do you need to pack for March? I do recommend you packing for March like you're going to encounter winter. That way, you are prepared for everything. Base layers that keep you warm, even if you sweat a bit while out on your activities, a warm mid layer like a hoodie or a down jacket, and then, of course, a proper winter jacket that is windproof and waterproof. Of course, waterproof footwear of some sort. Actual winter boots are really the best idea. Gloves, a warm hat, and like we talked about, traction devices for walking or hiking. If you don't have them, just know you can rent them in the town of Banff, especially for some of those hikes. If you're listening to this and thinking, I want to visit in March, but I am nervous about driving or I don't know what's realistic, this is exactly where one of my Banff travel consultations can save you hours of research. I'll help you map out a plan that fits your idea of an ideal trip with built-in backup options so the weather won't derail your trip. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Banff Travel Podcast. If you got value from this episode, do me a favor, make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next one. It's free, it helps the show, and it keeps you in the loop. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer in a future episode, head to banfftravelplanning.com/podcast and send it in. Until next time, happy trip planning, and I'll see you out on the trails.